Alrighty, and this is Brian and Nick here for Co-op Critics, and this is our new weekly series Party Chat, where we sort of catch up and talk about a different topic each week. And this one is kind of a what we've been playing and what we're excited about thing. And two things that we're excited about this week are The Division and Overwatch. And we'll get to Overwatch in a minute, but I wanted to start with The Division because we have both dove back into The Division because they dropped an 8.5 gigabyte patch over the past week. And I know you have played a ton of The Division, Nick, but for me, I have probably not played that game in several months at this point. And so this was really an opportunity for me to jump back in. What's different with the new patch? I mean, I know there's been DLC that's been added too, but what do you see as the biggest changes with the new patch?
Well, I'm not even going to touch on the DLC because I haven't bought any of the DLC. So the new patch is the 1.6 patch, and it was released, I think, simultaneously with the Last Stand DLC, which includes like a PvP mode and a couple of other things. But the coolest thing about the 1.6 patch is it still added a lot of great stuff for free for people like me who, like, I can't really justify paying $15 for the DLC when it's a game that I literally have not picked up in 6 months.
Right.
That being said, since we first talked about them dropping the patch, I jumped back on and kind of relearned the mechanics of the game just because I haven't played it in so long. And I've fallen in love with playing the game again just because there's more, since the last time I played, there has been a level cap increase. There wasn't one with this patch, but there was one in the previous patch that I didn't play. So I've been grinding, trying to get better gear. And I just love how deep the game can be if you want it to be, just in terms of modding your weapons and all the different variations that an individual weapon can have with the talents and everything. And then you throw that in there with your perks and your skills and all that stuff. It's a lot. It seems like a lot to manage on the surface, but it really allows for a lot of varied gameplay. And also just the different types of missions you can do. You can do the incursions, you can do the regular missions just on much harder difficulty. And that's one of the things that the patch added, is it added a legendary difficulty. So that a while back they added you could replay the same missions, the story missions, in easy and hard. And then they added a challenging level. And then now they've added a legendary level, which I've not tried it, but I was playing a match with some people the other day and they said that one of the missions took over an hour on legendary. So you can imagine. It's very
kind of Destiny-esque in the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the Destiny raids. And you really have to set aside a lot of time.
Yeah, the whole light system in Destiny 2, like that's how you level after you hit the level cap is kind of similar as well. And you have put many more hours into it than I have. I was only level, I want to say 16 when I jumped back into it. And I had jumped in last night with you and Jeff. We were playing some of those missions over again on harder difficulties to sort of level me up, kind of power level me through and get me a little bit closer to you guys. But I obviously need to go back and do a lot more of the story missions and things like that to build it up, because I haven't even finished upgrading my base yet. I want to say I'm closest in the medical wing, but I haven't finished any of that stuff. And but like you, I forgot how much fun that game was. Like the last time I shut that game off, I had gotten myself into a mission that I was way underleveled for, and I was playing it solo, and I kind of got stuck in this mission where I couldn't run out of it, and I couldn't get past the last boss of the mission. They kind of block your exit. And so I had sort of stopped playing for a while because that was my last experience with it. But with the new patch, I jumped back in, and I have to say, I'm really, really impressed with just how much fun that game is on a moment-to-moment basis. And what I like best about it is, we have been to New York many times. So going to New York and having that game being set in New York, and us sort of, we'll say things like, oh, let's go back by the hotel, or, let's go back by the pizza place or something like that. And there's these real world locations that we have been able to use as shorthand for places that we want to go in the game. But the whole ambiance of that game and the whole atmosphere of that game to me is very, it feels almost very lonely and very, the whole cold winter vibe of it. I love all of that. I love
very
the feel
hopeless.
Of it. Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Because you've got I mean, it's kind of interesting because it takes place if you've played through the story, you realize that they basically released this virus on Black Friday that wiped out a large portion of the population, and so there's Christmas decorations everywhere. Which Christmas is like this happy, hopeful time of year, and that in contrast with what the game actually is, which is just certain parts of the city are like a ghost town. There's just people, there's civilians walking around like shivering or just like trying to scavenge for food. And the city has been overtaken by all these different gangs and stuff. And so, yeah, you're right. Like, I love the atmosphere of that game. It's one of my favorite gaming experiences I've had in a few years.
And the weapons feel really good too, though. Like, that's the other thing. Like, we play tons of shooters, and you play even more shooters than I do. But even right now, we're playing Overwatch. We're playing all these first-person survival games on PC now. We've played tons of Call of Duty, tons of Battlefield, tons of Halo, all that kind of stuff. I like the feel of the third-person. This is the type of third-person kind of shooting that I like. I mean, I like the Gears of War series, but there's a weight to that that's a little bit too plotting for me, I think, in terms of preference, and I really like the way that this game feels. And I had forgotten, until we jumped back into it, how much I just liked the flow of the game and how it works and how the missions flow and that kind of stuff. And so that's been really fun, kind of jumping back in. The one knock I have against The Division is the problem that we are running into right now, is that you can be too far away from your friends in terms of level, which makes it a situation either where they're playing down to you or you're sort of being the third wheel in a mission with them and just sort of being dragged along until you level up. That's kind of a bummer, but the moment-to-moment gameplay and the shooting and all that kind of stuff, I absolutely love that stuff. And like you, I haven't bought a lot of the DLC. I think I bought the Underground. Was that the first one that came out?
Yeah, that was the first one that came with survival mode and all that stuff. But I didn't buy it.
That's the only thing I bought.
Or the most recent one.
That's the only one I bought, and I think I bought it because one of our other friends was playing that. But that's it. So I haven't sunk a lot of money into it. I definitely haven't bought any of the additional currency that you can use to get better gear and stuff like that. But I'm having fun jumping back into it, and we played for, I'd say, at least like 2.5 hours last night, and I'm back in that mindset now. I'm definitely back into wanting to play The Division. I've been thinking about it all day today, about jumping back in and sort of playing more and wanting to catch up to you guys in level so that we can really start to do more of the Dark Zone stuff, because that is another piece of it that I really never got totally into, because the few times that you and I played it, we kept getting stomped right before we get our gear out of there. And that cycle that I was in was very sort of discouraging, but now I'm at the point where I'm excited about playing again, and I want to level up, and I want to get back in there, and I want to try the Dark Zone again. And they've made so many little improvements to the game since the time that I was playing a lot of it, that I really like the fact that they're continuing to give this game a tail by listening to the community, improving on the areas that people are struggling with, making little gameplay tweaks here and there. Like, they've really done a nice job of keeping people wanting to come back to it,
Yeah, I think they've realized that. Well, I mean, you remember early on in the launch cycle, it was not without its issues, but they seemed to do as much as they could to get those figured out and to make the community happy. And what's crazy is, I was looking at some statistics about the game, and the player base has actually gone up the last several months. And part of that is because they released a new DLC and this new patch coming out. But even before that, it was kind of going back up. And a lot of people are saying that it's because Destiny is kind of trailing off, because now that they have announced Destiny 2 is going to be coming out, in a few years or however long that's going to take, they're not supporting, they've already done the final patches to Destiny and
right,
or the final DLCs and stuff. And so Destiny and Division share a lot of the same player base, I think, just because they're similar games in how you level and how you advance throughout the game and everything. There are definitely parallels there. And so I think that a lot of people are, they've capped out at Destiny and are now moving back over to the Division to kind of see what they've missed on that. or they're like us and just haven't played it in a while and see that there's new patches and things coming out and want to jump back in. Either way, Ubisoft is still supporting the game pretty well, and I think that goes to show that they realize that the players are still very much enjoying it.
I think this is their new model, dude, because you see, we're not going to talk too much about Wildlands today, but that's going to be a very similar model. You know what I mean? So
right.
I think they've started to, which is kind of interesting, and we could probably do a whole other episode about sort of where their games have gone over the past several years. But you look at like the old Assassin's Creed model of putting out a new game every year and all that kind of stuff, and then you kind of look at what they're doing now with creating these kind of ecosystems with long tails that they're sort of doing with their current games, and I much prefer this model. And you mentioned Destiny, and for me, this game was the nail in Destiny's coffin for me. When this game launched and we jumped into that and we were really hitting it hard when it first started, that's literally when I stopped playing Destiny altogether. And even though word about Destiny 2 has come out, I'm not super stoked about Destiny 2. I mean, Destiny really kind of petered out for me, but I'm still very much interested in kind of the world of the Division and getting back more into this game. So I'm excited to be back into it. Definitely going to be playing more of it, and you'll probably see some videos up on the Co-op Critics YouTube channel, I think, over the coming weeks. And, that's probably a good time to segue into the other game that we're really excited about this week, which is, of course, Overwatch, because not only did the new competitive season of Overwatch start on the 28th, but I believe on the test server right now is the newest Overwatch character, which we will be getting access to in the main game very, very soon, and her name is Orisa, right? Is that how they pronounce it? Orisa?
Orisa, I think.
Orisa, okay.
I don't know. It's to each his own. I say Anna. Some people say Anna. So
I say Anna too. Yeah, but the new character is a tank. Her occupation is listed as Guardian Robot, and what we've seen so far from her is she has a barrier. She's got they call it a fusion driver, but it almost seems like it seems similar to Bastion, although it doesn't have the fire rate that Bastion's gun sort of has. But she seems like a tank that's kind of almost a cross between like Reinhardt and Bastion. That was my first impression when I looked at it, but I haven't watched that much gameplay. What do you know about the new character?
I don't know a lot. I'm on if you go to playoverwatch.com, they already have the character up on the website, on the Overwatch's main website. And so I'm just kind of looking through that. And I did watch the video that they put out, that Blizzard put out about Orisa's backstory. And that's a really cool video. If you really like getting into the characters' backstories and stuff, which I love all the character backstories that they've done for Overwatch. But she kind of seems like maybe a support tank, or something, like kind of a mix between support and tank. She has this one thing called Supercharger, which basically she can plant down and it will supercharge any friendly guys near you.
Yeah, it gives you plus
friendly 50% players.
% damage.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I guess maybe a little bit less than what Anna's deal does, but and that seems to be her super.
Yeah, and the other thing, dude, is her protective barrier has 900 health, which is awesome, dude. So she can throw out a barrier not dissimilar to like May's Wall of Ice, but this one is a barrier similar to Reinhardt's, where you can stand behind it and fire through it. And
you can fire through it, yeah.
Yeah, or Winston's Dome and stuff like that, and it's got 900 health. So you can already see, when you think about the barrier heroes like Symmetra and Winston and Reinhardt, and then you think about what she can now do with this, it's kind of sits in the middle of what Symmetra's is and what Reinhardt's shield is, and that's super exciting, because if you have a team that knows how to use those barriers, and you think about the different choke points that you have on certain maps, and when would be good to throw down a barrier and really be able to hold a point, and then you look at her other abilities, like you mentioned, Supercharger. There's another one where it's called Fortify, where it reduces the damage that she takes, and she can't be affected by action impairing effects. So it's not invulnerability, but it's something close to that. When she has that,
yeah, it looks like she turns into Metal Mario.
Yeah. So you think about
on
that,
the video,
and you think about like making a charge or taking a point or defending a point against the other team's push or something like that. And she seems to have like all in one character the ability to change the tide of a battle more so in a lot of ways than other characters. Like I cannot wait to see how she changes the meta and the basic makeup of a team and stuff like that, because unlike some of the other more recent additions like Sombra and even Ana, by this initial design, Orisa seems like a character that is going to be a consistent pick on most teams.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, the Fortify, which just looks like she can take a ton of damage and she's not impaired by... like for instance, on the video they have on the Overwatch site, Reinhardt doing his ult to knock down everybody. She walks right through it and doesn't get affected by it. So something like that is awesome. And so if she can just go out and literally tank a point and get focus fire on her, that's going to be a big deal. So yeah, I'm anxious to see kind of how she changes the game. Similar to, I kind of expected Sombra to change the game more than she did, but I think people figured out how to counter her pretty quick. That's what's crazy about the community is they figure out how to counter these people real fast, and I guess it also speaks to Blizzard making sure that this stuff stays balanced because you don't have a total takeover of one character.
I also think that Sombra is one of the most difficult characters in the game to play, and so
she's very hard to play well. Yeah,
so I think that we're seeing. She I would say is certainly one of the most difficult characters to play, and so you see either super high level play of her, or you see people just getting owned and getting off of her real quick as sort of a character. There doesn't seem to be a lot of middle ground mediocre Sombras. There's either people who are really good at her or suck at her and then move away from her right away. This particular character, Orisa, is completely made for me. I don't know if we've talked about it in this show or not, but like since my days of playing D&D, I was always the cleric. I was always the support class. I love playing support. When we played Battlefield, I loved being support. She's like a support tank is what I see when I read her, which reminds me a lot of Zarya. Zarya can be very aggressive offensively, but she can be a real support to her teammates as well. And that's the kind of character that I like to play. And so I'm super excited to play Orisa. I cannot wait to get in, as if we needed another reason to be excited about Overwatch other than just the launch of the new competitive season, which I had already sort of decided I wanted to focus kind of on support characters. And even though Orisa is a tank, she reads to me as a support tank, which I'm excited about.
Yep, totally. I'll be excited to see when they actually launch her in the real game. We'll definitely have to jump on and do a couple of videos.
Yep, for sure. So there you go. Those are two things that we are very excited about this week. We're back in the division, and we are jumping back into Overwatch for the new competitive season and cannot wait for the new characters. So that is going to wrap up this episode of the Co-op Critics Party Chat. So if you like the video, please click like, subscribe to our YouTube page. We will be back again next week with more games discussion.